During a recent congressional debate, Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries took the opportunity to brutally fact-check the Republican Party about their economic record. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe and enjoy the video. One of the recurring themes of this channel is that I believe very strongly, and I've done multiple videos to this effect, and will probably do multiple videos to this effect in the future, that we on the left, whether or not you're center left, progressive, social democrat, democratic socialist, whatever, as long as you're not conservative and Republican, we have a moral and tactical duty to reclaim the narrative that the Republican Party is the party of fiscal responsibility. You hear this all the time. This is like a lazy default. People generally accept that the Democratic Party is better on social issues and has been for decades, but you have a lot of people who unfortunately are just they're distracted, they're ignorant, they're uninformed, they're perhaps willfully ignorant, they're perhaps dishonest, or some combination thereof. But you have people still saying, okay, well, I'm socially liberal, but fiscally conservative, because people, unfortunately, associate fiscal responsibility with conservatism and the Republican Party. Even though, as we've discussed in previous videos, if you compare the record of the modern-day Republican Party for the past 30 or 40 years and the modern-day Democratic Party for the past 30 or 40 years, it actually shows that the Democrats are not only better on social issues, they're also better in terms of delivering results consistently on most major metrics. They're better on economic issues as well. And I try to make the case, but now we also have major figures in Congress on the Democratic side, particularly Hakeem Jeffries, who took Nancy Pelosi's place as the leader of the Democratic caucus in Congress. Now he's making that case. So there was a debate recently about a GOP-authored debt ceiling relief bill, right, which would ostensibly allow us to raise the debt ceiling and avoid economic catastrophe if, and only if, it was paired with brutal spending cuts for working-class families and working-class Americans and veterans and others as well. So Hakeem Jeffries took the opportunity to go to the floor and fact-check Republican lies about the two parties' respective economic records. So let's hear what Minority Leader Jeffries has to say, because it's good stuff.
Deficits from the previous two administrations. 20 million good-paying jobs were created during the 8 years of the Clinton presidency, and he eliminated the deficit. In fact, he created a budget surplus. President Barack Obama inherited the Great Recession, fiscal irresponsibility, and 14 million good-paying private sector jobs were created during the presidency of Barack Obama, and he reduced the deficit by $1 trillion, took it from 1.5 trillion to 500 billion. Democrats, the party of job creation and fiscal responsibility. Joe Biden inherited a mess. And what did he do? In 2 years, more than 10 million jobs created. Now that number over 12 million. And reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion. What's the Republican record? Why do you lecture America about fiscal responsibility? Mr. Speaker.
Just want to interrupt there and say again that fact because we've talked about it before in previous videos. If you take President Clinton, Democrat, President Obama, Democrat, and President Biden, Democrat, and you compare their job creation record, which by the way is probably the single best, it's not perfect, but it is the single best economic metric in terms of a healthy economy, because pretty much everybody needs a job. The stock market, not so much, right? That is unfortunately a luxury of, upper class Americans. Most working class Americans and poor Americans don't have skin in the game in terms of stock. So you look at job numbers. If you have to pinpoint a single economic metric, most economists would agree, look at job numbers. In the past 35 years, something like 46, 47 million jobs have been created in the United States in the post-Cold War era. 96% of those 45, 47 million jobs created under Democrats. That's how lopsided this is. Republicans lose jobs in comparison, and their gains, such as they are when they do have them, are paltry in comparison. So Hakeem Jeffries, right on the money. Let's continue.
What is the Republican record? President Reagan comes into office, and the first thing that he does is massive tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, and explodes the deficit. President George W. Bush comes into office, 2001, 2003, massive tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, 2 failed wars, a deep recession, explodes the deficit. President Trump comes into office. First thing he does in 2017, massive tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. The GOP tax scam. 83% of the benefits going to the wealthiest 1% in America, explodes the deficits. How dare you lecture America about fiscal responsibility?
Preach, speaker, excuse me. That's wish fulfillment on my part. Leader Jeffries. Yeah, it was great. So again, he kind of lays it out pretty succinctly, and you can look at other metrics as well: real GDP growth, and average annual stock performance as well. On every major economic record, even the national debt, Republicans contribute more to the debt. My God, Donald Trump in one 4-year term, after swearing that he would eliminate the debt, not only not add to it, that he was going to wipe out the debt accumulated by previous administrations. He actually added more in a single 4-year term, nearly $8 trillion, than any president before him. You know, as much as people complain about President Biden's spending has not matched that yet. And President Biden is spending stuff on shit that actually matters, like infrastructure, like, the PACT Act, CHIPS, bringing back manufacturing to the United States. Not $2 trillion in tax cuts for the rich, as Leader Jeffrey says, 83% of which, of the benefits, go to the upper, the 1%. So this is simply a fact of the matter. We have to get better on the left of viciously defending the left's economic record, the Democratic Party's economic record. It is not close. It is not equal. The Democratic Party, for all its faults, is simply the better governing party. Period. End of story. Not just on social issues, but also on fiscal issues as well. Republicans as a party, the Republican Party, the Republican leadership is good for nothing except creating messes that Democrats have to clean up and then complaining that we don't do it well enough. So take this information and run with it. Run with it.